Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Is it?
Welcome back to it. Is it what?
Is it on time?
I know.
Did my chair just fall apart?
The whole world shook at the same time. As you can tell, we are literally 2 minutes with them on time, which is a absolute first for us. But we want to welcome everybody back to the Specialty.Run Podcast. I'm a little shook. I'm not sure how the universe parted the Red Seas today, but it's good to be back. It's been a long time since we've done an episode, almost a whole month. So
It has.
How's-
We appreciate y'all being here.
for sure. Today is really going to be a deep dive into Google Business Profile, which is what we promised that we would go over. We're going to give you guys kind of a more in-depth view of what that's going to look like and kind of dig into that a little bit. But we're just happy to have everyone joining us, and I think we'll just jump right into it. Where do you think you want to start today, Rob?
Yeah. So a couple of things about the Google Business Profile and some context around GBP and the reason why we want to talk about this. It's the best worst kept secret in the world of the web and the internet. And as I'm talking here, I'm just checking to make sure that we are in fact properly streaming. Okay, we are. Good. All right. It is the best worst kept secret from the world of the internet, and that is because it's where the keys to the kingdom lie. When somebody walks into your store in 2026, there is a 97% chance that the way they found out about you was through a Google search. 97%.
That's great.
Anytime money changes hands in your favor as a retailer, 97% chance is the first time that person found you was through a Google search. And more and more every single day, the gatekeeper between the Google search that takes place and your front door is your Google Business Profile. Yes, your e-commerce site is super duper important. Yes, your website is super duper important. I would argue that your Google Business Profile is as or more, probably more important than those two things, and it is completely free. And what we're going to talk about today is all completely free to do and is so unbelievably important. We're actually publishing a guide that you can use to step through each step on your own and automate a lot of this stuff. Derek was saying that when he was doing some of the research around this, that he found that now they have it so you can kind of set up like scheduled tasks and all kinds of stuff, which is super dope. And we've also got some tips and tools and other tricks to kind of help you along as well. So Google Business Profile, what it is basically your business listing in Google. And I guess the best way to start out is let's talk a little bit about. Let me show you real quick where the Google Business Profile is, so you can have a picture of it, and then Derek, if it's cool by you, we'll come back to going through and claiming the profile, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, cool. All right. Everybody, hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to do the classic running store near me. Okay. I do not want to use my precise location. These are Google Business Profiles. So I say running store near me, and I get this AI overview. And congratulations to Santa Cruz Running Company, A Runner's Mind, and Fleet Feet Fresno.
Nice.
The first three And you'll notice that there are three total that show up in this Google result are under places are Google business profiles, and they show up next to the map that is annoyingly zooming in and out like crazy. And then you have people also ask, and then below that is where the actual Google results show up.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm getting a notification from someone that there's a massive echo on you.
A massive echo on me. Okay. Thank you for letting us know. I'm going to fix that right now. I bet I know exactly where it is. Okay. Okay. I'm going to pass it over to you, and I'm going to see if I can fix my echo while you are showing everybody how to claim their GBP.
Okay. And I apologize, guys, that I cut him off in the middle of that, but I want to make sure that you guys can understand what's actually being said. What's interesting about the profile is that it's fairly easy, and once you've claimed it one time, as long as you're logged into your Google profile, just in general, I like to use Chrome for this, but as long as you're logged into your Google profile, then you can actually see the Google business profile right from the apps. So let me just make sure that we're on my screen. Perfect. All right, so let's go here. All right, so we have it called out that essentially there's two ways to get there, if you will. The first one is if you've never set up your business profile ever, the easiest way would be just to go to google.com/business. That's going to, and I'm not going to walk through that flow because I don't want to create a duplicate. It's actually one of our call outs is to not create a duplicate. Essentially, you'd be competing against yourself at that point and it wouldn't make sense. But let's see, google.com. And so this is what that would look like. Give me 1 second. There we go. And essentially, if you've never done it before, when you're on it, you'd hit start now, and it's going to have you find your business and then claim it. Now, I've done this already, so it's claimed. If I was to walk through this process again, it's going to create a duplicate for me. So I won't do that. If this wasn't claimed, you would literally just follow the steps to claim the business. And there's going to be a call out like this one right here where it simply says claim business, and then you just follow the steps. As you go through it, you'd enter your email and you'd associate yourself with that profile. So then what makes it really easy is anytime you come back in, it's going to have you, it'll look like this when you come into a new browser. You have these little icons here that you can click, and your business profile manager lives right there. That's the easiest way to get to it. Once you've actually set it up, you can come here every time. You can do your photos, your posts, and I'll go through these in order. But it's just literally everything lives right here in this little square. And I wanted to point that out because that to me was confusing when I noticed that the UI on this changed. It's very different than when I originally set this up. So one of the biggest call outs that I want to let you know is this profile strength. You can basically judge how much work you need to do to set this up right off the bat. And even you can see here that mine's not even completed. So let's start with category. So essentially, as you're filling out that flow, as you're claiming your business, you're going to fill a lot of this stuff out. And so the only time you really see it like incomplete is if, like, let's say for some reason you like hit skip and just didn't do that information. Maybe it's not something that is, pertinent to your business or whatever. The problem with that is like you could, like what I did was like, I'll come back to it later. And like there's a crazy, I don't even remember what the stat is. Rob could help me with that, but there's a crazy stat that like how many people actually didn't complete their profile. They set it up and then just kind of walked away from it. And there's just like no updates ever since. So the easiest portion that I found, the way that they have it now is these little icons here will actually walk you through everything that you need to do. Like if I was to click complete profile, it's going to tell me, okay, I need a storefront photo and a photo of the inside of my store. That's going to help increase the strength of my profile. And I would hit next and I'd walk through that. I would add the photos and then it's going to take me, it's going to complete that section. And essentially this tile here, once I've completed my profile, would fall off. And then there's additional checklist items. So, get your first review, get noticed, all these things will fall off as those things happen. But then once you've completed your profile, I love that call out there because it will continue to give you tips that you need to do to continue progressing and make sure that your profile is performing as best as it can. And that could be, just simply reminding you to update your profile with a new post. All of those things live here too. So you can just go directly to whatever you're trying to do. But I wanted to call this portion out because this is very helpful because, it could have been a week since you were in here and you're like, well, what's my priority while I'm in here? Well, maybe it's just simply updating your customers with a new post. And that's really cool. We'll talk about that here in a second, but that's really cool because they actually let you guys schedule it now. So you could potentially spend, an hour a month just putting everything in so that you can have it scheduled and then those posts would update on their own. Let's go into edit profile and just work our way down through this. So when it comes to your information, it really is straightforward once you've claimed the business. And essentially you just want to make sure that your information is as up to date as it can possibly be. So this would be one of those places where you could come in here just to confirm your business name, make sure your categories and your descriptions and that type of stuff are updated. When it comes to categories, I want to make this call out because, you know, it makes sense to have a category like shoe store or sporting goods, that type of thing. But Google has like in this particular example, because we're talking about running stores, Google actually has a specific running store category. And it's important to use it because if someone searches running store near me and your category says shoe store, you might not actually show up. So you want to make sure that what you're actually categorizing yourself is things that are actually being searched for. And Google does a good job of providing those categories for you. And then Rob, I think we'll go into further detail here in a little bit about the categories because he's got some tools that we can share with you guys to make that a little more simple. They've got a lot of categories. Echo. Hopefully with us Echo, yes.
Yeah. One quick note, and you'll hear us say this over and over throughout this, is a concept called NAP, N-A-P, name, address, and phone. Google and most of search engines, generally speaking, are mega ultra sticklers about your name, address, and phone number and the format of them. So whenever you're entering the name of your business's address and your phone number, make sure they are exactly the same everywhere. So like if you're using ST period for street, use that everywhere. Don't use street spelled out street half the places and ST period in the other half. Or if you have, Rob's Running Company as the name of your business, make sure it's spelled out like that everywhere. Don't call it Rob's Running Co. in some places and Rob's Running Company in others, because Google will consider those completely separate entities and it'll be destructive from an SEO and Google business profile perspective. Humongous thing that people accidentally really hurt themselves with.
Yep, 100%. And it's funny because about 7 years ago, I owned a retail store and nobody explained this to me. And something as stupid as the way that I displayed suite for my suite number, STE versus suite spelled out, it killed our performance. And it was it was something that I didn't notice for almost 2-3 months. But once you realize and you look at the analytics for matching versus not matching, absolutely destroyed how we were showing up just from something as simple as that. But it was one of those things where I didn't even remember making that mistake, putting it in the opposite way. And so it's just very important as you're filling this in, just make sure you're entering it the first time correctly, and it'll prevent a lot of headache in the future. I'm glad you called that out, because that was one of the things I for sure wanted to mention, because that it doesn't seem intuitive for something as small as like, a street name, because that's actually a really great call out. You could use lane versus LN, and who would have ever thunk?
I know, man, and the little details matter so much with this stuff.
100%. All right, so let me see here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off there, Derek.
No, you're totally fine. Not a big deal at all. It was a great call out. I mean, it really does, like, it showcases how important it is that it matches, and how sensitive Google is to this stuff, because it doesn't seem like it's a common sense thing, right? Like, I wouldn't think that ST for street versus street would make any difference, but it really does.
Totally.
So like I said, Rob will go into the categories here much more in depth here in just a little bit. But for right now, let me get back to there we go. So when it comes to, this type of stuff, all of this is very, very intuitive. You literally just go through, you can add phone number. Chat's cool because you could add a WhatsApp. That's actually really cool call out, because I didn't know that was a thing. You can actually add a chat. You can do a text message. You can enter your phone number and save that there, and then it'll add a chat link without displaying your phone number for everybody. They can just click that, and then they have immediate access for questions or concerns or whatever, that right through your Google Business profile, which will add validity to your profile. So that's really cool. You can do that there. Obviously, you'd want your website and your social profiles, and the social profiles can be, I would recommend doing all the ones you have, but you can definitely pick and choose. Again, it's about matching. So if it exists, I recommend throwing it out there, because it's more things that Google can say, yeah, this is a real profile. And the more valid your profile is, the better the performance, and the more you're going to show everywhere else. Again, everything else is just real common sense, business location. This is where you're going to want to make sure that the addresses match and stuff. Your hours, if there's any special hours, if you want to add those, like Easter thing, upcoming things where you might be closed or have reduced hours, those types of things are really good to, like Rob Coyne's, like kissing the ring. This would be a great one to kiss the ring. It gets you in here. It makes sure that you're communicating with your customers the way that you should be communicating with your customers. But then it also acts as that touch point that you need to really, you need to touch your business profile monthly. So if you've already done posts, you've already done everything else, this would be a great way to add something to update the profile, while at the same time communicating with your customers. Beyond that, everything else, this is one of those things where you can add more hours. You can add, additional things like this, payments that you accept, the planning, these are just additional pieces of information. Are appointments required for you? Yes or no? Do you offer delivery? Yes or no? That type of stuff. All of that adds to validity. Again, once you've got everything in here and you hit save on all the stuff that you've changed, then it's just as simple as going back, and then your information is updated. And what's cool about this profile is it's not going to like update over time. It updates in real time once you've saved it. So as you enter all of this information, this stuff will change, and this section for you, it expands. So as you enter your description, your review, that type of stuff, all of that stuff adds in here. See, my social I added that last night just to see, how long it took for them to update it. It didn't take any time at all. Your profile is updated right there. And to be perfectly honest, it really is that easy. I think the biggest piece that I struggled with once I claimed my business, because even that piece was really easy, was simply figuring out how to navigate back to the business profile manager without having to search it and everything else. And again, it just lives right here under your icon. As long as you're signed in to your Google business or to your Google account on, for Google, then that'll pop up under your app icon. And, one of the bigger things that Rob pointed out earlier as far as scheduling, I wanted to call that out specifically because I thought that was really cool. When I first set this profile up like 4 years ago or whatever, they didn't have this option. You can actually now schedule your posts. So you could potentially have a content day, and you could put your descriptions in. You could do your image and whatnot, any additional information that you want, and then you can schedule that for a specific date and time. If you're trying to touch it 4 times a month, this would be a really easy way to do a picture and a description. um, it's kind of really cool because it's essentially a free social media feed that Google provides for free, that allows you to update your customers on your business profile. But now you can like plan it out and just get it done. You don't have to remember to come back in there and do it 4 times a month. You could schedule it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you want to do. um, I think that pretty much covers everything on this side of it. The rest of it's pretty intuitive. Your services, that's one of those things that in your profile you edit anyway. If you needed to come back and just edit this, you could click on that and you could add your services. I think we'll discuss services in more depth here in a minute too. Because the tools that Rob uses for that is pretty clever for that as well. But it's one of those things where the services is, gate analysis, that type of stuff. If you offer it, what was the statistic on that? What is it? Is it 4, minimum of 4, Rob, that it should be used for services and categories?
It says most have 2 to 3 services listed. You
Yeah.
should have 20 to
20 or
30.
30. Yeah. That was the
Crazy.
Thank you for that. That was one of the things that really like shocked me, because
Yeah.
when I look at business profiles, most of the time I don't see more than 5. And I would have never put 20 or 30 until Rob showed me the statistics on it. But that is a great call out, because this is one of those ones where you can fill this up as many as you want.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have skipped the services altogether, honestly. I mean,
Yep.
if I'm a specialty retailer, I mean, yes, there are services, but they would feel very secondary from a listing like this perspective. But man, skipping them is a terrible idea because of the way that Google's algorithm works.
Right.
And interestingly enough, you're when you cover the chat piece, whenever possible, do everything that you can not to leave a field empty in your Google business profile. So, if you don't want text messages coming in, I completely understand, out of left field on Google, that seems like a great way to get more spam, right? But, creating a WhatsApp account for the business and then having that, multiple people monitoring, running those accounts, that's perfectly cool. But if you can get that done and have that available as an outreach option, it's going to pay dividends for you from a GBP perspective. And keep in mind, 100%. There are a maximum of 3 results that are going to show up on that page when people search for whatever it is that they're searching for. And so, competing to be one of those 3 results, big deal.
For sure. 100%.
One of the sort of cheats that I like to use is a little plugin called GMB Everywhere, and it is an extension to Google Chrome. And from what I can tell, these guys are totally legit. It is a great company, cool startup, really cool idea, etc. However, as a privacy and security advocate and practitioner and hobbyist, this is the kind of extension that I would install on a device that I'm not using for personal or work or anything that's going to have private data or business data going around on it, because it's reading what's on the screen. But ultimately, what this GMB Everywhere does is it is an SEO auditing tool that gives me category information and insights for Google Business Profiles. So check this out. This is pretty cool. The whole primary, secondary category and services realm is kind of weird and tough to navigate, and this really helps a lot. So if sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. If you want to use this, feel free, but install it on a browser that you don't regularly use and or a machine that you don't regularly use, or just reach out to us and ask, and we're happy to, hop on a Zoom and work with you or whatever else. I would not suggest doing this on a machine that you use every day. So I'm looking at Google Business Profiles. Again, running store near me. I've got my 3, and all of this here is what shows up as a result of the GMB everywhere. This is going to give me the category finder. I get a couple of different tools that pop in, and there's a bunch of stuff that I can do, but I'm going to pick on Santa Cruz Running Company, and I'm going to hop into their category finder. Now, I logged into this tool earlier. Oh, and it stayed logged in. Imagine that. So what this does is this tells me that running store is their primary category, which is pretty much the going concern standard primary category for most run specialty retailers. And then it's going to give me the most common related categories to running store, and it's going to give the volume of searches around each one of those. For example, running store as a primary category makes the most sense, and there's really not any reason why you wouldn't choose running store as your primary category, assuming you're a running store. But when it comes to things like your secondary category, you want to have like 4 to 6 to 8 secondary categories. There's some debate online out there that says, keep your secondary categories tight. In other words, don't choose a bunch of them. That's actually a myth. GMB Everywhere, these guys ran an experiment. They did a really interesting case study that I was reading before we got on. And they did, with real businesses, tracked multiple grid points and watched rankings rise and visibility rise up as much as 34%, between 29 and 34%, when they added more secondary categories. So you don't get dinged for adding more secondary categories. Obviously, when you add more secondary categories, they need to be relevant to what you're doing. If you're adding air conditioning repair to your running store as a secondary category, that probably is not going to do you any good and will likely hurt you. But a lot of these are pretty solid, right? Make a lot of sense. So, running shop, for example, or shoe store. Shoe store has a ton of traffic associated with it, 1 million. A couple of the other ones with a lot of traffic, Athletic Club, 2.7 million. Athletic Club would be a great one to choose because, run clubs and that kind of thing. If you do bike stuff, Bicycle Shop is a very, very high volume. In either case, there are tons and tons of subcategories that you can choose from. And again, you can be loosey-goosey with it. In the description of this video, we're going to have a punch list of things to look at with your Google Business Profile, but I also have a list of all of the categories they have available to choose from, if you really want to look through them. But also you can poke around and take a look at all the categories that are available as well, and anything that you can possibly think of. With GMB Everywhere, one of the nice things about this tool is you can look on Google Trends how the category does from a search perspective to see how popular it is. Because again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to show up, you're trying to make sure that your primary and secondary categories match whatever it is that the person who you want to walk into your front door or to make a purchase from you online is searching for. And so, and not necessarily categorizing you properly. For example, if I was a HVAC repair company, my natural instinct would be to make my primary category HVAC repair and replacement. However, most people are never going to be searching for HVAC repair and replacement. They're going to be searching for air conditioning repair. So I'm going to get a significantly better result and a much better Google business profile standing by making my primary category air conditioning repair than I would HVAC repair and replacement, because I'm catering to the search profile of the person who I'm trying to get the attention of, and not to the categorization of the business, if that makes sense. And I used the HVAC repair because it's a lot more obvious than something that I would have just made up on the fly with running stores, and you guys know how my nonsense can go when we talk about that. A couple of other things to think about, and this is ultra super duper important. 66% of the time, Google business profiles that have proper category alignment show up and get clicked on. So coming in and making sure that you first have a primary category that aligns with most of your searchers. For us, it's pretty straightforward. Running store, easy. You know, if yours is shoe store and you're a run specialty retailer, probably time to rethink that. Going in and making sure that you're taking advantage of the secondary categories and just loading up on as many as you can think of that are as relevant as possible. You're not going to get dinged for having a bunch of them. And then the last piece is the services piece. And this is the empty gold mine. Honestly, I never would have included services. I wouldn't have thought about it, but absolutely everything that's out there says you better have services and you better list services. Here are some that are listed, commonly listed for running stores, running shoe fitting, trail running shoes, motion analysis for runners, gait analysis, custom insole fitting, etc. There are, where's my control here? I went through and grabbed a bunch of services that are run specialty specific, just to show you guys how many of them there are already in Google's repertoire of secret hidden madness that I didn't know existed. And you can have as many of these as you want. Like we mentioned earlier, you should have 20 to 30. Most profiles have 2 to 3, 20 to 30. Organize services by which category they connect to. It's a really good way to kind of keep your mind around what it is that you're presenting, so you don't go off in left field, because it can get a little squirrely when you've got, 15 secondary categories and 40 services, but this is how you show up in that list of 3, and this is really your chance to show up in somebody's Google search. And like I said, 97% of the people who stand at your register are making that Google search. So this is one of the most important things that you can do. Also, as you're going through this process, and if you want to play around with this GMB Everywhere, you can look at other stores and see the differences between what they're doing and what you're doing, and also take a look at different areas. So and of course it's not wanting to work for me now because I'm talking about it, right? Load, you fools. Oh, I reached my limit. Of course. Well, so we're going to pretend like it loaded.
It's what we get for playing with it earlier.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is very cool. And I mean, these guys are very smart, but I don't install browser extensions without knowing exactly who it is I'm extending my browser to, because it's a freaking security nightmare. But nonetheless, those are your categories and services. Do not sleep on them. They are extremely important, and they are outside of establishing your Google business profile and making sure that your name, address, and phone number absolutely and completely matches the way you have it listed everywhere else. This is the next step on getting everything perfect and exactly right and showing up in those searches. Let's see, what do we have next on our list? Derek, you want to talk a little about photos, product listings, and so on?
Yeah. So photos is a good call out because it takes us back to where we were talking about doing your posts and things like that. Photos is one of the ones that I think was shocking to me because, like, when you say like the need of a post to like kiss the ring, that kind of makes sense. But it never occurred to me, and I actually made this mistake when I had my retail store too. I definitely was not doing as many photos as there should have been on there. In fact, even on the example one that I showed, I think there's only 5 photos or something like that. And, you know, it, while that's a good start, you really should be doing 20 plus photos. And then obviously those photos stack in perpetuity. They'll stay there as you continue to update and do the posts. Those photos will grow. But we recommend, based off of the research we've done, 20 photos essentially to get a real good impact. Google's going to look at that as it's an active store, it's legitimate. But if it's seeing no images or limited images or images that are really outdated, it's potentially going to, maybe this is a closed business, or maybe it's not something that's active, or, there's less validity for Google there. Essentially what you're going to want to shoot for is, storefront images, interior, exterior images, things like your shoe wall or your fitting area, team faces, if you guys, are comfortable with that. Gait analysis is in action. Excuse me, I can't speak today. It could even be like your group runs or like a race day, or just whatever, tells the story that we keep talking about, tells the story of your guys' store. Those are going to be really important just to continue to add that validity. And then a big call out that I didn't like, I knew that this was a thing with geotagging, but for some reason my brain didn't process it. Photos that are actually done in your phone are automatically geotagged. So if you use photos that you've taken with your phone, then they'll have that GPS location geotag around your store. So that adds an additional relevant signal to Google. So that was a good call out that I had not taken to heart. Yeah, I didn't realize that made any weight or anything. When it comes to how often we should be doing images, it comes down to potentially 1 new photo per week minimum. You can do more, but at bare minimum, you should be kissing the ring once a week. Essentially, it's one of those things with photos. It goes with your posts. So if you're already scheduling your posts weekly, then that's a good place to start. But it would be better to do more than just 1 per week. In my mind, you're already killing. I hate to say this, but you're essentially killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're kissing the ring, and you're also updating your customers, providing images of the last fun run that you guys had, last community engagement that you had. It all not only builds validity with Google, but it also keeps your customers up to date, which they're going to appreciate more. And those things are going to look interesting, and they're going to draw people in. Like you said, like Rob said, 97% of people visited it anyway. They're going to see those. We called it out as a weekly pulse check. And in my opinion, it's just something we should be doing anyway, but it's really going to show, that you are real and that you're alive and your business isn't closed or anything. Um,
And it's funny because back in the day, it was once a month. Check on your Google business profile once a month and, update your hours. And now it's once a week. They want you doing it once a week. The best practice is once a week. And everything is once a week, right? You should be posting blog / written content once a week. You should be doing your Google business profile once a week. Should. Everybody has unlimited time. Somebody mentioned a really good trick to me. I will share this. John, I hope you don't mind that I'm sharing it. I don't think you would care. But if you take everything that happened in the shop during that week and you stick it in your favorite AI tool and say, I'm going to need to make a Google business profile post, and I want to summarize everything that happened in the store this week in a casual, simple overview kind of a way. 750 words exactly, whatever the count is. I think it's 750, something like that. Help me out. Bada bing, bada boom. It spits out a nice, concise result, and it is the weekend review. And you can just copy and paste, and that's everything that happened in, around, and with your store. And then whatever photos you've uploaded, it's all relevant kind of automatically. And that way you don't have to go back to the drawing board with, oh, great, now I have to post some other thing where I have to be Mark Twain once a week,
Right.
So hopefully that's helpful.
I think the next thing that we should talk about is product listings, because this one was actually really surprising to me. It almost, for me, seemed counterintuitive, which is, I think, why it's important we talk about it, because it's one of those things where I guess I just didn't think about it. I've already got my products listed on my website. My products are visible in my store. Why am I putting it on Google? But really what it's doing is it's, in my mind, the question is why not? Because already it's just like a little mini storefront in search. And something as simple as like listing your gait analysis as a product with like a photo and a description, it's going to differentiate you from, like, let's say Zappos or some other location that might carry the same Ghost 17,000, but listing your gait analysis as a product, that's what's going to like differentiate you from your competition. As people are searching different things, if that's something that's attributed to what you offer and you have that as a product in your profile, you're going to be found more easily for something like that. And instead of just being, the next big box store that someone could select, you might rise higher in the listing because of that differentiator. And so that was Rob has it called out here as a hidden gem, and I agree, because I honestly had no idea that held any validity at all, but it really does help set you apart from the competition as they're searching. I think the next thing we'll transition into is reviews. Rob has it listed here as bar none the most impactful thing, and I think I agree with that. Reviews are interesting because reviews are one of those things where your customers have to do it. So it's important to encourage those reviews without, how do I want to say that, Rob? Without like pandering,
without pointing the gun at them.
You know what I mean? But reviews are one of those things where there's interesting statistics. 83% of consumers read Google reviews before visiting a local business. And I guess another one that was surprising to me is 200 plus reviews equals average for top ranked local businesses. And I mean, that was really surprising, because essentially that's quite a bit of customers. So, the being able to encourage and have your customers leave those reviews, that is going to have a huge impact towards how the profile performs. Do you kind of want to speak a little bit more about that as to why it's so impactful, Rob?
Yeah, so there and there's some weird stuff too that I wouldn't have picked up on. So uh, the with the reviews, one of the things that used to be hiding, hopefully it's not hiding as much anymore. Derek, you mentioned that you found it pretty easily, is the link to leave the review that you can kind of share with people. Um, making it easy. I think you can also generate a QR code in the same part of the Google business profile, so you can like print that out and have it at the register or whatever else, because you do want to encourage people to leave reviews.
You want to share my screen real quick and I'll show that?
Oh yeah. There you go.
Perfect.
Let's see.
So what he's talking about is this right here on the same spot we were. It literally says ask for review. If you click that, it gives you all the information you need. You could put it in email, WhatsApp, Facebook, copy the link, or print out this QR code, and it would all provide your customers a route to directly leave a review to your profile.
Booyah. Oh yeah, that looks different than last time I saw. That's great. Okay, cool. Thank you.
For sure. Yep.
So that of course is super duper important. Recency rankings are also a really important thing. So if you have 150 reviews that happened 2 years ago and 3 reviews that happened last year and 1 from this year, you are not going to rank as high as somebody who has active reviews that are happening on a regular basis, or even all of their reviews that happened last week. So you want to have kind of a regular stream of reviews that are happening. Again, it's one of these things, right? Like, you want to have lots of money in your bank account. Well, great. I can only do so much to make that happen myself, champ. But nonetheless, that is the goal. The other one is, and I thought this was really interesting, you want to reply to your reviews, whether they are good or bad. Interacting with reviews is a huge plus. Google rewards that and ranks you higher. Who knew? Responding to reviews, whether they are good or bad, is a good thing. So, do so liberally, and again, encourage people to leave reviews. Do so on a consistent basis. The more they leave them and the more often they leave them, the better off you are, generally speaking. Obviously, this hopefully goes without saying. You kind of can't like reward people for leaving reviews or anything like that. The nature of the beast. But you can certainly say thanks, and when you respond to every review, making it personalized and extending that personalized touch that is so special about specialty retail into that interaction, extends it even further. But again, you don't want to offer incentives for reviews. That's not always clear. If you've never done anything like this, never dealt with any systems like this before, you might not know that. So just a heads up, don't offer those incentives.
Right. And I want to make a call out on that one, because asking a customer at the end of a transaction when they're in store, hey, if you were, requesting a review is different than offering an incentive for reviews. So
Totally.
There's a big call out. Google will suspend your profile for this. So you don't want to do a Facebook post saying we'll give you $5 off your order if you give us a review. If that comes back to Google and they catch it, they will suspend your account for that. So, but I also want to encourage that, like, putting a QR code on a print off at the register telling people, hey, if you liked our service, if you were happy with let us know how you felt. That's different than offering an incentive. So.
For sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Absolutely. No, you're good. Thank you for clarifying. It's absolutely correct. And one other note that I had written down in my notes, because there's just so many like little things here with these business profiles, and I hope we're not scaring you away. There are lots of little tricks when you go through and you see it's pretty straightforward. We just want to be sure that you're armed with as much background, context, etc. as possible for this to be as productive as it can be. There are a bunch of checkboxes, drop downs, and other items that are called attributes. Go through those and answer as many of those as you possibly can. If you can respond to all of them, even with a no, you are treated with a higher priority than if you don't have responses for any of those attributes, or if any of those attributes are left empty. So keep that in mind as well. Attributes about your store, etc. There are also some very interesting things about posts and events and products to consider that we've sort of kicked around on the edges, but I want to underline again, and Derek passively mentioned it when he talked about the products, when he was talking about, gait analysis as a product. There are lots of places for the products that you sell when people come in and sit down at the bench and you show them a curated set of products after you've gone through a fitting. Lots of places for you to sell those products. Your Google local listings and merchant marketplace feeds and, all that kind of stuff. When you're thinking about your Google business profile, I don't know why I have a hard time saying Google. Anyway, when you're thinking about that curated set of products, it's not a horrible idea to go, this is where I want to do my differentiated stuff the most. Like he said, gait analysis as a product, not a horrible idea. Your most popular hoodies with your logo, your hats, stickers, training program for couch to half marathon, passes for your most popular spring 5K. Certainly it could be, the most popular men's, women's, and kids shoe out there at the moment, something along those lines. Absolutely. But, thinking about those differentiated products, less about dumping all of your products from your store there and thinking of that as another marketplace with where you're trying to expose everything. This is a very deeply, very highly curated space that's more about kind of brand extension and less about, hey, this is a place to kind of open up shop. The posts and events arena is very similar. How often, and maybe I'm just an asshole, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. How often do you guys read Google business profile posts? I mean, I think the total number for me, maybe 3, and all 3 of them have happened while researching this video, right? I mean, they were great, and it's cool, and it's interesting. Like, going through it, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. It like gives you an updated view of what's going on at the store. Like, I get it, makes a lot of sense, but these are absolutely for Google to use. And so, when we're thinking about, okay, what should I be talking about? I do think, the unspoken beauty of what it is that you bring to your community chopped into little weekly bite-sized picture is probably the best way to go. And remembering that most of the time the listings that you're competing with are not keeping up with weekly updates. And it's just like training to be fast with long distance. If you get out there and run every afternoon, you will eventually be fast and go as far as you want to go. If you're showing up and editing these things and checking the boxes and doing what you need to do with the Google business profiles, you will bubble to the top, no doubt. The biggest one that we see, honestly, that people falter with is the name, address, and phone number consistency.
100%.
If the store name is spelled differently on the website than it is in the Google Business Profile, you're dead in the water. Got to get that the same. It's a humongous thing that seems silly, and it seems like it's splitting hairs. But that they absolutely 1,000,000% split hairs on that specific subject.
Right.
They'll consider you a completely different business than yourself.
Yep. And we've seen that firsthand recently with a couple businesses with a few different mistakes. Everything from like, inaccurate URLs to address, not matching completely. Like, so it happens much more than you're thinking that it actually happens, and they will ding you.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah, it's heartbreaking because you're spending tons of money on advertising, and the whole reason that we built Run Free Project is because it's ridiculous to expect people that run a running store to also be computer science wizards. Like, that's not, why on earth would that be? Would those two things be a thing? How would anybody know that you would need to be really, really, really attention to detail on this specific thing? And then all of a sudden you learn later on down the line, oh, great, I've been blowing tens of thousands of dollars off into the wind because I'm missing a letter at the end of my email address. Are you kidding? That's what a nightmare.
Yep.
So there's a couple of things that we want to leave you guys with, and then we've got kind of some bonus stuff. I know we're probably hitting towards the end of the time.
Yeah, we're right on time.
Oh, beautiful, man! Right on time, twice in one day. What's that? So the first is that we will have a guide up that is basically a checklist, and then a kind of monthly checklist for you. Obviously, the best thing that you can do is follow this checklist, get yourself up, skis on top of the water, so your business profile is rocking and rolling, and then once a week, do a post, do a picture, make sure your hours are good, and then be responding to reviews. Wrap that into your weekly maintenance of existence, and everything is beautiful. The browser extension that I was using is called GMB Everywhere. Please be careful with that. I do not endorse them, but I have used them, and I always use them on a virtual machine or on a machine or browser that I don't use for any other purpose. We'll also have a checklist for the weekly, monthly, etc. that you can use, and we're happy to answer any other questions that you have. We did have a question come in, excuse me, looking at services. So you go into your Google Business Profile, looking at services, and you might see a finite list of services with checkboxes next to them that says, do you offer this service? Yes or no. That's a good sign. That means that you've chosen your category listings well, because it's making inferences about how you've shown up in results so far. So there is likely an established Google Business Profile in place already. This isn't a new GBP, likely. So, obviously go through, answer yes or no to the services that have been presented to you, and then to add additional services, there will be a line there that says add a custom service. Just add the custom service, and you can choose or fill in and follow that prompt that way, and it is basically an iterative process. But that, having the checkbox option as opposed to having it kind of be open season, is actually a good sign rather than a sign that something's set up wrong. So don't sweat that too much. The other piece is that we discovered a couple of really interesting tidbits in our in our review prior to this that neither of us knew anything about. So I'll take the ChatGPT. Do you want to take Apple?
Sure.
Okay. So I guess I should have, Microsoft injected a very large sum of money into OpenAI from an investment perspective. So of course this is true. I had no idea. I hadn't thought about it. ChatGPT uses Bing's index, not Google's. So if you're not on Bing, if you don't have a Bing for Business profile, ChatGPT will never recommend you, or will not recommend you from a business perspective, from a commerce perspective. If it may recommend you in web results, right? So it's essentially the same setup process as a Google business profile. It's bingplaces.com, and it's Microsoft. So prepare to gouge your eyeballs out and shove them down your throat and try to choke yourself to death, because it's the worst user experience on the face of the earth.
Alleged.
That's right. The only user experience allegedly worse is the one with Google, and we've already stepped through that. No, just kidding. Who says things like that? I'm totally
You're just gonna make
kidding
all of them hate us. It's fine.
I know it's opposite day. It's opposite day. You guys know I love Microsoft and Google, but in all seriousness, ChatGPT's commerce results, business related results, do key off of Bing. So if you want to show up there, and you should probably want to show up there because people are using it like crazy. bingplaces.com. Once you get your Google business profile nice and comfortable and you feel good in that place, replicate it over there on Bing. Don't try to do them both at the same time. Going to get confusing, and you're going to start tweaking out. Tell us 100%. About Apple, Derek.
So Apple was interesting because I didn't know that this did this either, but Apple Maps Connect is something that apparently default nav for every iPhone uses it. So when you and you can use other browsers, but if you're defaulting to Siri pulls Apple Map data. So it's just another one of those where you would go for this one. You could go to mapsconnect.apple.com, and it takes 5-6 minutes to set up. But you would want to make sure that your information is set up there as well, so that way when it's pulling up, location data from where you're searching locally, it's going to be able to find you from there as well. And I didn't realize, I don't know why I didn't think Apple had its own thing. For some reason, it never clicked at all that Apple has its own thing, but it makes sense because it's, Siri is its own, it's its own animal altogether. But yeah, that one it doesn't take any longer to set up. I would also say the same caveat that Rob just mentioned. I probably wouldn't recommend doing it all at the same time. But once you get your ducks in a row and you're comfortable with what you've filled out specifically, I'm specifically referencing Google, but let's say you've got Google and Bing taken care of now. Apple is one that definitely deserves as much attention as the rest. So that way, outside of Android devices, you're still being found when customers are using, Apple native stuff.
For sure. There's also, if and when you get everything dialed in, part of connecting your business profile and your domain, your website, and the fact that those two things are related to one another and one and the same, includes this verified trust link that especially Google is very fond of. And so, if you take and embed a Google map into or onto your website for the About Us page, our location, whatever it is, that embedded map includes an embed tag that includes your what's it called? I can't remember. They have a name for it, but it's your something identifier, custom identifier that goes back to your Google business profile. So that identifier sits on your domain. It also is in your Google business profile. Now Google knows that your website domain and your Google business profile belong to one another. And that helps verify the trust between those two places.
100%.
We have a little bit of a sneak peek at the quick reference guide here, the quick wins checklist. This is pretty much everything on the list that we covered today, plus or minus a few things, and this is all going to be in the guide that we have at the link that is in the description below. Really can't underline boldly enough how important the Google business profile is to existing in 2026 and your web presence. You know, I know you guys hear me say it all the time. 97% of the people that walk through the front door find you through a Google search, and you guys saw it right here on my screen. You have 1 in 3 chances of showing up at the top of that page when somebody searches for running shoes near me, and the Google business profile is how you do that. This has nothing to do with e-commerce platforms or even websites necessarily. It's all what we talked about today. So hopefully this was productive, informative, etc. We would love feedback as always. Derek, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so.
That we were on time. I don't know what to do.
I know. Right? Like, I don't know what to do with my hands like that.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I need to throw myself out the plate glass door to like create chaos.
I don't think we missed anything. Let's end today's with, if you could give one piece of advice based off of everything that we talked about, what would your, I'll give mine, but what was yours that you think is the biggest call out? Your biggest call out?
My biggest call out is consistency is king.
Mm-hmm.
Just like training for a marathon or anything else. Show up with the uniform on and 90% of the problem is solved. Just keep showing up and keep doing, and keep doing, and you will find yourself at the top of the list. That's 100%. So much of what the effort is. I know we talked about it for a long time, but a lot of this stuff really is so much easier than it sounds like it is.
100%. I agree with that. I'm going to add to the consistency portion, napping is important. NAP, name, address, phone. Make sure those are consistent. It goes back to the sweet versus sweet concept. Super, super important. That's my number one takeaway, is those 3 things not being consistent will hurt you more than almost any of the other stuff.
Yep. Derek's is way more important than mine.
But I think it comes back down to consistency. I think we're correct. Consistency is king here, and the more consistent you are with making sure that it is updated, and if it's not correct, then it gets updated. That's where you're going to win. And if you're not consistent with it, then I think all of it just falls to the wayside. You know, I'm not saying that you're going to go down to 0 because one of those things is not, but you know, it's not going to perform as well, of course. So I think it was a great way to end.
For sure. Okay. Well, everybody have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for hanging with us, and let's all celebrate on-timeness together.
Absolutely. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell. And as always, we're grateful for you.
We are.